Hi hi! After the last guide being very short, today will take a bit more time as we are heading to the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. I have stuff to say about the name, stage location and geography, but that will come later, once we have covered what you came for. How to drive Rally Sumatra quickly. Let's start with the setup. This might be the easiest setup so far. Basically, you can leave everything on default. This whole rally suits the default very well. The one thing I would recommend to adjust though are the dampers, because their default frankly is nonsense. To be better functional for damping, we got to touch a few sliders. So, a slightly softer fast bump setting and a slightly stiffer rebound setting. Done. Now, sudden compressions from jumps or rocks can actually use the 2-speed damper and let the spring absorb the energy, and then the rebound actually releases this energy slowly, so the car is less bouncy. So, you might wonder, what do you mean the default is good here? This rally has many technical sections. Can't we do more to account for those? Well, yes, we could individually. We could allow for high-speed straights, intense braking, and rapid tight corners. We could adjust for quick acceleration and great body control for tight technical sections. We could adjust for downhill braking control and hairpins on a grade. But we cannot do them all at the same time. Whenever optimizing for one of those mentioned things, you will make the car much worse on another mentioned thing. Setup of a car is mostly a trade-off between possible behaviors. And since Rally Sumatra here has a whole salad bowl of different characteristics, I find it best advice to strike a middle ground between them all. And this middle ground, well, that happens to be what the default setups are doing already. One exception, of course, if you try to compensate for a systemic behavior of the car itself, like tuning to make a Lancia Stratos less snappy. There is a link in the corner for the number 0 guide for general tuning, if interested. Now, for the driving aspect. In my opinion, Sumatra is split into about 3.5 specific sections, all with their own character and driving style. Overall though, the rally has a certain feeling to me, as the training rally or tutorial rally. It does blend challenges from many other gravel rallies into one, but it is much more forgiving than any of the others. A major feature is not only the rather wide road found here, but even more so the very drivable space next to the road. The grass or bushes are rarely slowing you down, and there is often nothing dangerous at all next to the path. No rocks, hinkelsteins, road signs, post boxes, guardrails, and all those other schmeckles you find roadside in other rallies. This means most mistakes do not end the rally here. They might not even cost you any time or damage at all. It feels like it was intended to be a training ground. The rally to introduce gravel mechanics to newcomers and show off all the different challenges found on gravel. If you succeed in Sumatra by staying on the road, not touching the grass, and still going fast, then you are also ready to tackle this style of driving challenge in other locations. But if you do go off, you can still continue and improve your skill in the next corner. To be truly fast here, you would have to learn how far you can cut corners and to exploit the forgiving roadside to the max. But since Sumatra is not a rally of the 2023 or the 2024 calendar, in my opinion there is little point in optimizing it to the max. In the following, we'll go through the sections one by one, in the direction they occur when you're driving the longest stage possible in Sumatra. The first third of it starts with the hairpin mountain section through the agricultural fields. This presents similar challenges as you'll encounter in Greece or in Mexico. Be careful on downhill braking to keep control of the vehicle. Maximize the acceleration and train your handbrake skills to swing the car around those tight switchbacks. Always keep an awareness of going uphill or downhill, as it greatly changes the braking distances and how you can approach corners. Some tighter switches even require you to do sudden weight shifts and a left-right entry into a sharp handbrake turn. This is also a place where you encounter water fordings to test a quick engagement of your wiper blades, just like Mexico. But if you get it wrong here, you'll survive. Moving more towards the center section of the stage, we'll find long straights, a few chicanes, long jumps, and many 90-degree corners. This is more a training for listening to your co-pilot, rather than to train actual driving. It's fastest to put the pedal to the metal on the straights, but you gotta listen carefully so you know the distance and the direction of the next sharp corner. Some of them are seemingly hidden on purpose to really bait you into a mistake if you lose focus of your pace notes. This is similar to the challenge of Rally Estonia, Finland, and a large chunk of Kenya. Up next, you'll encounter the small town section, which is only driven in one of the stage directions. It is shortcut in the opposite direction. This is what I counted as the half section, because it's really short. But for a tight town section with many different corner flows, it is still quite forgiving. There is a lot of space and leeway to miss a turn or call. I think it is good to train your brain into focus. Don't get distracted by all the spectators and pretty houses and props all around, but listen to your notes. The corners are mostly 90 degrees, but all spaced in very different distances and flows to each other, so you gotta listen. It reminds me of the arena sections in Sardinia, the mine and town in Mexico, the tight town in Corsica, or the tight village sections in Portugal. After that, and finally, you'll drive through a section with a lot of road undulation, sometimes visually marked by a cut-down forest around you. This last third of Sumatra creates a continuous corner flow, with a need to approach corners as a system, rather than individually, and a certain swing and dance to handle your car's mass and momentum. It creates awareness to your car's momentum and weight, and teaches you how an uneven road and a previous corner has influence on your ability to turn in. In extension, naturally teaches you how you can exploit those effects for faster speeds. For example, if a corner is banked inside to the direction of travel, you can take it faster. This is similar to the flowing corner complexes found in Sardinia, Portugal, Chile, or back in Dirt Rally 2, the coastal section of New Zealand. So, in summary, you'll encounter the crop field mountain switchbacks, then the jungle runways and palm intersections, followed by the town of distractions, and finally swinging through the rainforest logging pendulum roads. The default setup will feel a little meh on all of these, but it is the best compromise to tackle all of this in one go. And it further is a great training if you're ever forced to use a default setup, like in some of the moments. Here, even much more than anywhere else, I'd say learn by doing. Drive Rally Sumatra and learn from the moments where you overshoot or touch grass despite not wanting to. Adjust your driving and try it in a different way, directly in the next corner. Sumatra does not punish you. Well, except damages and heat. Sumatra is almost exactly the same latitude as Kenya, but rather than sitting on a 1,000-meter high volcanic plateau, Sumatra is covered in lush rainforest, somewhat close to sea level. This means it seemingly has the harshest climate for mechanical degradation. If you have a crash and damage your radiator, pray to Odin that you'll get to the finish and there is a service part coming up. Otherwise, you might end up with a totaled car slain by starlight. So, this advice should help you to get the most out of this location and might inspire you how you can use Sumatra to also improve your skills for every other gravel rally. What's left now is to talk about the stuff with naming and geography that I announced in the beginning. You're welcome to stay and listen, but it is trivia and more of a thought exercise. For those not engaged by something like that, I already wish you a good day and hopefully until next time. Now, the name I call this rally is Rally Sumatra. But why? Since it is located in the country of Indonesia and called Rally Pacifico in the game. The roads used for modeling here are not actually from the WRC Indonesia rally that happened in the 90s, but instead some seemingly random roads in western Sumatra. Granted, the WRC stages were also on Sumatra, but about 500 kilometers further north. I do see this inaccuracy here less bothering than with Czechia, as the game does not claim to represent the WRC rally here. It just says Pacifico, so it could be anywhere. I also have to add that this seems to use a few fictional roads as well, to connect the interesting real roads together, similar as we saw in Czechia. Also, I'm less bothered by it here since the fictional name, but it further underscores the feeling that this was deliberately designed to be the training rally of Dirt Rally 3. But I have to say at this point, Pacifico is the dumbest name of the 5 fictional names, by far, far and away. I mean, Scandia, yeah, Norway is on the Scandinavian peninsula. Oceania, well, New Zealand is regarded part of the Oceania georegion. Iberia, well, yeah, Spain is on the Iberian Peninsula. And Mediterranean. Corsica lies smack middle in the Mediterranean Sea. But we established this rally is on Sumatra. Sumatra, the island, lies in the freaking Indian Ocean, not the Pacific. Of course, it is debatable where exactly we draw a boundary in the contiguous world ocean waters. But it mostly seems to align somewhere between Singapore and Borneo, which intuitively would make Java and Sumatra lie in the Indian Ocean completely. Indonesia as a whole certainly has a lot of Pacific coastline, but in my opinion Sumatra in specific has none. Also, the name Pacifico feels extremely random and unspecific. The 4 other rallies picked close by geographic features to be named after, probably avoiding any countries' names, yeah. Yet the Pacific Ocean literally covers half of our planet. I think probably most islands of the whole world are Pacific islands, yet they picked exactly an island that isn't. What would have been with Rally Sunda, after the big 4 Sunda islands, not associated to any country in specific? Or Rally Malay, after the whole Malay archipelago, which includes New Guinea and all of the Philippines as well. Sure, a racing game developer might not need to get all the geographic context right, but it is still strange after the other 4 fictionalized rallies did such an accurate job with the naming. Anyway, yeah, Pacifico, wrong and dumb, but why didn't I just call it Indonesia? It is Indonesia. All of Sumatra is Indonesia. Yes, I was gonna do that. But then I saw my Rally Corsica video, and it opened a rabbit hole of thought. Why do I call it Rally Corsica? Why does most of the rally sport community? I want my naming to make coherent sense. I need to get to the bottom of this. Which rallies don't we name by their country? Well, obviously Corsica, but also Sardinia in the WRC. It is rarely called Italy only as Rally Italy, always with Sardinia right next to it, or even just casually as Sardinia. And in the European Rally Championship, there is Rally Azores. The Azores are a part of Portugal. Why just not say Portugal? And next year we'll see the Canary Islands in the WRC, which is a part of Spain. First thought was islands, but then why did we call Rally Wales, not just Rally Great Britain? Or why do we call it Rally Japan and not just Rally Honshu? My conclusion of this rabbit hole is the concept of a nation's heartland. The heartland, where most people live and most economic activity is, seems to often go hand in hand to represent the whole country. But for rallies that are in distinct regions, removed or separated from a nation's heartland, sometimes even with a regional identity, we tend to focus on that region's name for the rally instead of the country's name. Imagine a fictional rally in Alaska. It is not an island, but it would internationally probably be called as Rally Alaska, while a rally in Kentucky would much more likely just be called Rally USA. Nobody could argue that Alaska is not a part of the USA, but it is geographically much more distinct than the states of the heartland. This felt coherent and consistent to me, so I applied it to the rally stages on Sumatra. Question: is Sumatra the heartland of Indonesia? Hell no. In terms of population and economy, the smaller island of Java dwarfs all of the other Indonesian islands. So, Sumatra must be a distinct region. And so I call it the Rally Sumatra. Done. Side note, following this logic, I will be consistent. Be prepared to see me say Rally France for when we cover Monte Carlo. All of the Monte stages are in the heartland of France, Le Hexagon. Well, since all who are still here were probably interested in this thought process, I'd be glad to read your thoughts on it in the comments. And where exactly do you draw the line between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean? I wish you great fun rallying through the jungle and fields of Sumatra. And really keep that radiator in one piece. Until next time, tranquil madness.